the fresh dish, delicious dish that we used to have, and it's just sat out for so long and it's just rotten. It's barely edible. It's the same food, but man, it is just so gross and stale and it makes you sick. That's what this movie is. It's like watching an extremely downgraded version of the Guardians of the Galaxy. This was a rough one, guys. This was a very rough film. Supergirl, and I just got finished watching it, and man, how can I best describe this film? Basically, and I know James Gunn wasn't the person who was the director or anything like that, but it's his DNA is just all over this film. Basically, you remember how much we enjoyed the Guardians of the Galaxy? Imagine if the Guardians of the Galaxy was, say, your favorite dish. Like your favorite, I like pizza, that's why I'm so fat. And let's say it was a wonderful pizza, with all of the toppings and fixins and everything. And that was the Guardians of the Galaxy. And it was fresh and good. And then, you put it in the refrigerator after you eat some of it. And then the next day, and some people like cold pizza, some people it's okay. But then a few days pass and you get the Guardians 2, and then another few days pass and you get the Guardians 3, and you get other James Gunn properties. And imagine if you take that same pizza and you just kind of set it on the shelf for a couple weeks. That's what this movie was like. It was this shallow, stale, barely edible imitation of that original magic and fire that we saw in the Guardians. You remember in the Guardians of the Galaxy, it had all this heart, it had really quippy, funny moments, it had a pretty good script, it had pretty, fleshed out characters, good character arc, interesting stuff, pretty interesting fight scenes, a lot of good comedy that landed, and that speech at the end. Sometimes I'll go back and I'll watch that speech from Star-Lord whenever he's like talking about like, guys, we're all losers, but hey, we've all lost something, but we don't have to stay that way, we have a chance to do something right here. And that was a good speech. This film has none of that. It tries to do it. Basically, what I'm trying to say is the movie sucked. The movie was just really bad. Supergirl. Oh, man. It was really bad. So, let's just, no spoilers yet. Maybe I might give an abbreviated spoiler thing, but this is just a quick review, because I know most of you probably aren't going to go watch it, and trust me, don't spend your money on this one. Best part, let's start with the good stuff first. Best part about the movie? Well, Superman. He's in it for like maybe 5 or 10 minutes. There's like this flashback. I believe there was a trailer released with her, like she's in the ice and stuff. Yeah, that scene. He's also in it, well, no, he's like recording he sends her like a recording at the very beginning of the movie, but that was it. That's really the only part. And then at the very end, he's at the very end of the movie, Kara comes into the apartment. So maybe, 6 or 7 minutes. He's great. I actually kind of like him. I don't know. I thought the movie Superman really wasn't that good because it focused on what it was as Mr. Fantastic and a bunch of other side characters. I don't know. This isn't a Superman review, but he was good in this, and even as briefly, and whenever he was on screen, it was just like, oh man, this is nice energy. He gave nice energy. Lobo was fine. People say it was iffy. Some people say he was the best part. To me, it was just like, well, he was better than the rest. He was better than Kara, in the movie. So there's that. But his scenes were just like, oh, okay, there he is, Jason Momoa doing his thing. He wasn't bad, I guess. It was fine. Then there was one other part. There was one other part I thought was the best part. And that was the feminist, how would you describe it? The feminist primal scream. Whenever we have a movie that is rah, 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 girl power, and that's what this is. Rah, 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 girl power all the way through. we always have a moment where there's some woman in the movie, good or bad, that just lets out this primal scream of rage. Yeah! You know, just like this feminist roar. It's pure feminine energy. That was one of the best parts in this movie, because there's a scene when Kara goes up and she does it, and the reason why it was so good is because she goes up out in outer space. She flies up in outer space and does it, and so it's silent. So we can't hear her screaming at all, and it was hilarious. So I thought, wow, that's actually pretty good. Well done. Was there any funny parts? There may have been one line. They're on this transport freighter, and there's this little miniature alien guy who says, I don't even remember. He says basically they get hijacked, and Kara asks him something like, can you get me closer to the ship or whatever? And he says one line that I got a little chuckle out of me. It was something like, yeah, sure, if I had an engine or balls or something, I could, but obviously I don't. And it was just very sarcastic, and I kind of cracked a smile when I heard that. That was it. And there is so much comedy in this movie where, you know, every single line and every single serious moment is undercut, and it is throughout the whole movie. I saw what they were trying to do. I saw there was a few moments where, you know, they were trying to give this emphasis. Oh, hell, let's just get into spoilers. No one's going to watch this anyway. It sucked. Non-spoiler. It sucked. So let's get into spoilers. There was this one scene, basically at the end when they try to kill the bad guy, which is a very regrettable bad guy. Not regrettable, but what's the word I'm looking for? Very underwhelming bad guy. And I couldn't stand him, by the way, because through the whole movie he's just walking around, you know, he's barely in it, but then he's just, every scene he's in, he's just like doing this kind of mosey walking, and then he's always eating something. I'm the bad guy. I'm nonchalant, you know, and then he'll kill someone. Look how easy that was for me. Yeah, it's just retarded. You know, it was just so cheesy. And just every scene. There were some moments where they were trying to be heroic. And the thing is the little girl, basically the bad guy kills her arms-dealing family that she thinks is innocent. And she goes on a quest for revenge. And Kara tries to tell her, like, revenge isn't going... There's a scene when they're talking about this. And Kara's like, revenge isn't going to bring your family back. And the reason she teams up with Kara is because, I think that's her name, isn't it? Kara, Supergirl? The reason she teams up is because Krypto's shot. That's the whole plot of the movie. Krypto's shot with poison, and he's got 3 days to live. And Kara goes after this big bad guy, and this little Asian girl goes after the big bad guy because he killed her family. And Kara goes after him to get the antidote for Krypto. And that's the movie. That's the plot of the movie. It was really stupid. But there was this moment where Kara's like, look, don't kill him, because revenge won't bring him back. See, there's a few moments the little girl, who's useless through the whole movie, actually tries, and Kara stops. And I was like, well, that's a good message, and she's right. But it's so weird coming from Supergirl, because Supergirl hasn't gone on that kind of arc to where she's really learned that lesson. Like, no one has killed particularly her family to where then she went after a bad guy, killed him, and then through experience learned that the emptiness didn't go away. She never experienced that. She experienced her family dying, but there was no quest of revenge. So it was kind of weird, even though she was technically right, weird for Kara to really be pushing this message of revenge is bad. And then at the end, Kara just kills the bad guy. She takes the sword and just murders him. And so she's not a hero in this whole story. There's no character arc that she goes on at all. She learns nothing, not that I could see. She's a partier in the beginning. She's just constantly drunk, excuse me, because of what happened on Krypton. She thinks Clark is a loser. And so you got all this stuff going on, and then she basically goes through the whole movie to get this antidote for Krypto, gets the antidote, murders the bad guy in a pretty merciless way, kills a lot of people while she's preaching, you know, don't get revenge. And that's it. And she tells the little Asian girl, I guess my partying days are done, and the movie wraps up with her going back to Metropolis with Krypto and saying like, hey Clark, I think I'm going to stick around for a while. Big nothing burger. It felt like I don't know, like taking a bunch of pictures on flashcards, the whole movie, and just, you know, next card, scene, 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 scene. Like, it was very bland, and it was just, you know, okay, this now to this, now to this, but it wasn't done in a methodical kind of interesting way. It was just hopping from scene to scene, and it was very simple. It was very basic. It was very uninteresting. The fight scene sucked. There was some weird editing too. There's this one shot in the movie when the bad guy kills a couple people in this alleyway, and Supergirl's like flying in the sky, and she's looking at it, and it's so weird because she's like looking at, like, the camera starts to look at them, and then all of a sudden it just like cuts in real fast. Like, if you ever hold a camera and then you can click on this button and then it like gives you a much closer view. It's like snip, and then it gets you much closer view. That's what it looked like. I was like, that was a weird edit. And then there's another one at the end. You've probably seen it on X, when she picks up this rope with this machinery at the end, and she's swinging it around, killing the bad guys. It's so choppy because she picks it up and then it immediately cuts to a scene where she's like zipping around with it. There's no transition. It was stupid. Everything was contrived. A lot of things, like, oh, Lobo shows up at the end because he just happened to be captured, and then he blows up the ship and then just screws off. He adds almost nothing to the story. He's just kind of there. It's almost like they just threw him in. And what he does almost changes absolutely nothing. It's like they just threw him in because it's like, hey, Jason Momoa, cool guy, I guess. Oh gosh, was there anything else bad? Everything was bad. The music didn't even land. That's normally the best part about, like, the James Gunn movies. You know, I thought Peacemaker sucked, but the one thing I liked about it was the music. Guardians, you know, the music's always pretty good. It hits. It was like they tried to do that with this movie and have these scenes where there's music and the music is kind of cool in the background, but none of it landed. Like I said, the fresh dish, delicious dish that we used to have, and it's just sat out for so long, and it's just rotten. It's barely edible. It's the same food, but man, it is just so gross and stale, and it makes you sick. That's what this movie is. It's like watching an extremely downgraded version of the Guardians of the Galaxy. And it's Supergirl. So it sucked. I did want to pull up this one thing. Save your money, though, for sure. This is the actress. Anna Nagoya or something like that. And I just wanted to show you guys, I heard about this. Not the actress, I'm sorry, the writer. This is the person who wrote Supergirl. All she's done in the past is, there's apparently an untitled Wonder Woman movie coming up, which I doubt it. Then there's Supergirl. Then there's something on the Vampire Diaries, which nobody, you know, watched. I mean, I guess. But this old TV show. And then the only other thing was a credit on the Michael J. Fox show. And that's it. She hasn't done anything else. She's been an actress. She's been an actress in different movies. The Blacklist. She was maybe in the Vampire Diaries. She acted in that a little bit. She's been an actress in a few different movies, but that's what she's known for. This is an actress. And she's barely written on anything. And so if you look at her, you know, what's interesting is she bears a striking similarity and resemblance to James Gunn's wife. You know, the chick in Peacemaker who's getting plowed by every other guy in the show. She bears a very striking... I mean, she really does look pretty similar to her. And, you know, just different kind of hair, I guess. But that's who this is. So, I don't know. You know, allegedly, I'm not going to say too much, but I'm just curious to know how she actually got this job, because this is James Gunn's DC universe. So basically, this movie cost about $200,000 budget. You know, it was around not 1,000 million. I'm sorry, 170 million to 175 million before any of the advertising and all of the theater stuff and all that comes out. And so over 200 million. And its range, you know, it just came out today. Or really late last... I think there were some showings. Was it late last night? I know it came out today for sure. but it's tracted worldwide 80 to 90, but just domestic over the weekend, at least according to Google AI, it's tracking to be 45 million to 50 million over the weekend. So when you combine it, you know, I don't think overall they're predicting close to 4, but it looks to me like it's going to lose money. That's what it looks like to me. Who knows? Who cares? But no one's interested in this. We all knew it was going to suck. Like, it was projected to suck. Like, we all knew it would. And man, guys, let me tell you, you know, I try to go in optimistic but critical. You know, I'm kind of evaluating. Gone are the days where ignorance was bliss for me and I can just turn my brain off and say, ooh, look at the pretty colors. Man, that childlike sense of wonder. I wish I could get that back after just consuming all of the vomit that has come down and, you know, reacting and reviewing this stuff. Wish I could just turn my brain off again the way I used to, but I can't do that anymore. So, I don't know if you liked it. That's great. I'm glad you did. Hold on to that. Hold on to that, buddy. Hold on to that as long as you can. Just turn your brain off and look at the pretty colors. You're going to be a lot more happier and full of joy than I am. But if you actually want an interesting movie to really enjoy and feel something and see characters and get invested in them and go on character arcs and stuff like that, this one ain't the one. This ain't it, okay? You're gonna have to wait for something else. So, yeah. I think that's all I'm gonna say. Guys, please hit the like button and the subscribe button and leave a comment in the description. Let me know. Well, let me know what you thought of Superman, because let's be honest, no one's gonna go watch this movie. So I can't ask you about it. But let me know what you thought of Superman, the new one, and where you think this is all heading. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Till next time.